Jujutsu Kaisen, oh Jujutsu Kaisen. Despite the amount of flaws that this series has as a whole, I can say without a doubt that what it brought to the shonen anime table is something that will never be forgotten. Domain expansions being something that Jujutsu Kaisen did bring. And it's nothing new, because let's be real, it's basically just a more prettier version of a Realm Marble from Fate, or a Bankai from Bleach. However, the way that Gege presented it, and how it functions pretty much as the end-all be-all in certain fights, and even then, sometimes it's not even the end-all be-all, it really makes domain expansions 10 times more interesting whatever they're brought up. Now, the benefit of domain expansions being reserved for only the top of the verse means that we don't have to worry about no-name villains, using popping domain expansion left and right that could potentially beat the heroes. But it's also a curse because there's certain heroes that either died too early or they lost relevancy and power scaling of the Jujutsu Kaisen world that we just never see them have a domain expansion. So that's what I'm going to go into today. I'm going to go into certain characters that should have gone to domain expansion but didn't due to unforeseeable circumstances. People who are new, my name is Tagged At It Before, and if you guys want to see more videos like this, you already know what to do. Make sure to give and knife that like button, subscribe if you're new, comment for the algorithm, join the membership today just for $2, and let's dive in. Now, the first character that I want to talk about immediately is the potential man himself, Megumi Fushiguro. I genuinely don't understand why this character had a domain expansion, because obviously for the challenge, it's not supposed to have a domain expansion, but his was incomplete, consistently incomplete. He never completed his domain expansion in the entire series.
Damn.
If that isn't the definition of potential, I don't know what is. Without going into a rant of why Megumi is one of the biggest bums in anime period, the first thing that we gotta talk about is what essentially is Megumi's incomplete domain expansion. Megumi's incomplete domain expansion, being Chimera Ant's Garden, basically is very restrictive. He has to be in an enclosed area, he can't do this in the middle of nowhere because it's not complete, obviously. But once he does this, he can summon as much shadows as he needs, and he could use that to whether it be summoning elephants, summoning multiple Nues in the sky to attack left and right, or dogs to sever people's hearts away. Honestly, just off the way it sounds like a pretty good domain despite the restrictiveness. So if it was a complete domain, what would change in Megumi's domain? That's what I thought to myself. Suddenly, one unique idea popped into my head. Throughout all this time, whenever Megumi's had his incomplete domain expansion, he has never actually tamed Mahoraga. So let's say in this hypothetical scenario that if he tames Mahoraga, he completes his domain expansion. In that case, it brings a whole different territory to where, usually in the case of other domain expansions, they're increasingly offensive to the point where if you're stuck in a domain expansion, you're done. I feel like Megumi's here will be the complete opposite, to where the more you at least try to attack Megumi or a Shikigami, the easier and quicker Mahoraga will adapt. We see when Mahoraga fought both Gojo and Sukuna respectively, it took them a decent amount of time before Mahoraga can actually adapt to their attacks. So, in this domain expansion, literally once or twice you hit either the Shikigami, boom, instantly adapted to your curse technique, you're done for. Think of it as like the Iron Golem from Minecraft once you hit a villager or two. Because after that, they start wailing on you and there's nothing much you can do. That's exactly how Mahoraga's gonna be to all of the other Shikigami inside of the domain expansion. Now that we're done with Megumi, we gotta move on to my boy, Nanami. Now, I understand why Nanami didn't get a domain expansion. After all, he was a first grade sorcerer. Usually domain expansions are reserved for the special grade, the top of the top. But I feel like Nanami was at such a high degree that he kind of deserved it. Technically, he was the first person in the series to hit a Black Flash, and he hit 4 of them back to back. So if Mahito, a little taller, special grade taller, could just wake up one day and instantly have domain expansion like a Nepo baby, I'm pretty sure Nanami, who's been working a 9 to 5 both in the real world and in the Jujutsu Kaisen world, he deserves one. Nanami's curse technique, being the ratio technique, allows him to basically create critical points for his opponents once he taps them once. If you're weaker than him and you're trying to block his attack with curse energy, he will find a weak point that will bypass your durability. So utilizing this knowledge, I wanted to think of what would be the perfect name for Nanami's domain expansion. And I think I found the right one. Domain expansion. Jujutsu Shift. Within Nanami's domain expansion, Jujutsu Shift, he has two main abilities. The first being his ratio technique. However, instead of him needing to land a hit on you so that the ratio technique actually starts, it automatically is placed within the user's body as, you know, it is targeted. And the second technique of the domain expansion is the shift. With shift, any person that is massively stronger than him, has more reserves, or just overall has a better curse technique than him, he has the ability to have more weak spots, more crucial weak spots that will weaken you much more than if someone was weaker or relative towards him. Now, since Nanami is primarily the peak of grade 1 sorcerers, his domain expansion will be a closed one. It will not be an open one like Gojo or Sukuna. Next up, we got my glorious king Toto. You know what's crazy? After Toto lost his hand to Mahito, that actually gave him a massive buff that could rival special grade sorcerers. The point where Toto's doohickey honestly could be his own domain expansion, but I wanted to extend it to more of Toto's personality. For Toto to enchant his domain expansion, instead of just making a simple clap, he would have to clap 3 times like he's about to say happy birthday. However, instead at the end, he would have to say domain expansion. Inside of Toto's domain, you would hear the idol music of Toto's idol, I forgot her name. But she would be having a little concert in the background while you and Toto will be on a game show. Toto will be the host and he will ask you various of questions, whether it be about the idol or the type of girl, man, whoever you're into. Now, if you get some of these questions wrong or Toto straight up doesn't like your answer, Toto will then be free to land 3 punches for free on you. However, the more questions you get wrong or your answer just gets worse and worse, Toto will actually end up hitting black flashes. And we all know how consecutive black flashes does to a person's psyche. For every question gotten either right or wrong, Toto will clap. However, if you get the question wrong, Toto will clap faster, meaning that the round will begin faster and your danger of you either losing your life due to Toto just barraging you for free is going to be imminent. Another sign of imminent danger would be Toto's idol music constantly getting louder and louder. So in the background, you would have an idol constantly raising up her music to the point where you can't even think straight and you can't even hear Toto's questions while Toto is constantly putting BTA on you for not liking a certain girl. Now, this domain expansion is pretty situational because, like, you know, some characters can take Toto's hits very well while others cannot. As you can tell from just how I'm talking, this is definitely my favorite domain expansion to make by far. Last but not least, we got the main character of Jujutsu Kaisen being Yuji Itadori. Now, if you read up to the last chapters of Jujutsu Kaisen, spoilers ahead, Yuji is shown to have a domain expansion and he did use it on Sukuna. However, it doesn't really feel like a domain expansion because it is the most realistic domain expansion in the series because quite literally Yuji forces Sukuna on a road trip throughout his childhood, right? And I'm not here to be like, oh, what Gege did was wrong, it was the wrong choice, but last time I checked, I don't think Yuji's curse technique revolves around his childhood. I don't understand how that relates to Yuji's curse technique at all. But I'm here to fix that, alright? Don't worry about it. With Yuji using the same hand signs as before, Yuji will unleash his new domain expansion, Divergent Destiny. Within this domain expansion, the enemy that is facing against Yuji curse technique drops relatively or in fact the exact same amount as Yuji Itadori. Hence the I'm you quote. Inside the domain expansion, the fight replays as it did beforehand. However, there is a slight twist. You see, as soon as Yuji lands a single hit on that enemy, Yuji can replay, like, you know how we use the Divergent Fist, he can constantly replay that hit over and over again on whichever body part he needs to, without even touching him again. You see, the only way that this can actually stop in his domain expansion is if he hits a black flash. However, the thing about Yuji is, we all know if it's pain, he doesn't stop. So if he hits one black flash, he'll go for another one and constantly go again and again and again. So you'll be getting barraged by Yuji so much, you don't know if he's actually fighting you. He could just be in the corner chilling while he consecutively punches different parts of your body with black flashes. And as soon as the black flash comes, he punches you again and repeats the whole process. Just like Yuji's fighting style, this domain expansion is very, very aggressive. However, a slight change to Yuji's domain expansion would be this is actually open barrier, because we already seen Yuji's potential, how it rivals Sukuna and how he's Sukuna's nephew. There's no reason not to make this open barrier, like come on now. So yeah, that's all the Jujutsu Kaisen characters that I have with potential domain expansions that aren't in the story. But if you guys want to see more videos like this, please make sure to give that like button, subscribe if you're new, comment for the algorithm, join the membership today for exclusive perks. Thank you all who have. I'm tagged on it before, and I'll see you all next time.